James Robert Elliott here, and I have a special guest today. Leo Hefner, he is president and CEO of Bluefin Management Group. We're going to talk about some really interesting stuff today, including the fact or the question, are you prepared when your SHTF, when your shit hits the fan, essentially? Are you prepared? And myself and Leo were talking, before we went live about different things and really why you should be prepared. And you have a personal example the last week or two, Leo, on your own stuff hitting the fan and how you had been prepared. So tell us about that, because it's a great metaphor to get into this.
Awesome. Hey, James, first of all, thank you very much for having me on your show. I'm
Pleasure,
totally
brother.
stoked to be here. I appreciate the invitation.
My pleasure. Good to have you. Thank you.
Yeah. So James and I were talking, and I run a real estate investment fund. And in the past 2 weeks, I've had 2 houses burn. And so we've been dealing with the insurance with all of that. And, it gets, as some of you may know, if you use your insurance too often, and I want to say the last time I knew what the stat was, it was 3 times in 5 years, they will drop you. And you can't get insurance except for Lloyd's of London for 2 years, and it's expensive. So, one of the things that I had learned along the way was mitigating risk using a risk reduction roadmap. It's part of my whole theory on business continuity that I feel very strongly about, and that every business and every business owner needs to think about.
Fair point. Fair, and I agree. I think it's often, on the whole thing, whether it's for business leaders or business owners, and whether we're thinking about sales or marketing or our team or clients or sales or ads or whatever, and all the other stuff, a lot of times we put things on the back burner. And even sometimes myself, I haven't done a physical backup to my system in a while. I have virtual backups to Google Drive, so I'm protected that way. However, I haven't done a physical backup for a little while, and so again, we often put things in the back burner, and then something happens, or even my phone I haven't backed up in a little while. Now, yes, a lot of it does get backed up to Google as well. However, not everything does. So, and isn't it nice to have that, safe and secure? You have the precious, and just so you know as well, heaven forbid something doesn't work or doesn't download or something wasn't backing up to Google or iCloud or whatever. We don't have to think about it. And I think this is a good reason, and I'm glad to have you on today, because it gets people thinking, are you prepared? And do you have some sort of plan, even a basic one, of what happens when shit hits the fan, right? And I love the metaphor. Not one, but 2 of your investment properties burned. Wow.
Yeah. So let me back up a few years, like 17 years, back to 2005. I was running a computer training center out in Las Vegas. And we were a Pearson VUE test facility. We were teaching people MCSEs. We were teaching elderly people how to use computers and how to just navigate online. We were one of the few places in Vegas where the county was sending people to put together an online resume to go find a job. So, I mean, it was great. So the server I had was this awesome, clear box, blue, lit up, something super cool hanging on the side of the wall. And I had this old archaic museum piece server that was sitting just inside the front door doing absolutely nothing. So somebody broke into the school, kicked the server over, that museum piece, kicked that over and stole a couple of the computers out of the school. Came back in. I mean, obviously everything was safe because nobody was going to rip off the wall and nobody knew what it did anyway. So which was cool. Sure. But that got me thinking about, what had happened, what would have happened had that left, because I wasn't being very good at doing backups. So I went out and I started looking at different backup solutions. And, like we've all done, you're going to burn something onto a DVD, or you're going to put stuff onto a USB drive. And then that becomes what people are supposed to do every week, right? And it never happens.
Yeah.
And you get the same files, and then it's a week old. So then when something does go away, you've lost a week's worth of business, or whenever the last time you decided to do your backup was. So that morphed into a whole business called Wild Blue Backup, which is still in existence today, that does an automated encrypted backups of all of your business material and your databases that you have on your computers at the office or at home, encrypts them and then stores them up, up online. The difference, because you had mentioned Google Drive. I use Google Drive. Everybody uses Google Drive.
Yeah.
But guess what Google gets with all of your data? Open access. It is, I mean, sure, it's encrypted on their end, but there's no encryption between you and the server. There's no encryption you're just in a bubble with a bunch of other people. So that's good. So Charlie was just talking about how he makes automatic backup protocols in their systems. That's fantastic. That's great. You're probably one of the few, Charlie. Now, how often do you go back and actually check those backups? So
that's a very good point. A very good point. Yeah. Thank you for contributing, Charlie.
So there's a lot of companies that they have full IT staff that are willing to go out there and do that. A lot of small businesses, people with the less than 10 employees, they don't usually have that. They don't. So we filled a niche for that. And part of that whole strategy was like buying insurance for your data, because we can encrypt it and upload it multiple times a day. It can be continuous. It can be once a day, just kind of whatever your internet can support. So, but that's not really why I'm here to talk about that business, but that was how we got started. So that business continuity became even more important. So with the school, well, if I live in California, I'm working in Las Vegas, what do I need to do in order to make sure that the school runs good if I can't make it back? Is there protocol in place? Are there enough people that are cross-trained in other people's jobs that business can move on as usual? Because we were small. We had a couple of instructors, myself as an administrator, and 2 salespeople.
Yeah.
And as I was doing the offsite backup, there became a lot more questions about other small businesses and how they were not cross-trained. So fast forward, we have the real estate investment fund. 17 years later, well, not because the fund is about 7 years old. So, 10 years later, we're starting this investment fund, and it's all about business continuity and mitigating risk using a risk reduction roadmap. It's planning for the worst, hoping for the best. So this last week, a couple of weeks ago, I think it was in the last 2 weeks, 2 houses have burned down. I called the insurance guy, and one of the interesting things that I do in the fund is each house is encapsulated in its own trust. I call the insurance guy. I'm like, hey, so this house burned down, property manager's taking care of it. And he's like, oh, okay, great. So we get to talking about it. He tells me what's going on. A week later, I call him back. Hey, I'm calling about this house that burned down. He's like, oh, yeah, so let me give you the update on it. I'm like, no, the other house. And I gave him that address. He's like, oh, you take care of that one too? I'm like, yeah, because each trust has its own insurance policy. And what some people may not know, and I think I brought this up in the beginning, is after you use your insurance a couple of times, they drop you.
Yeah.
Well, that was
at least the rate skyrockets. You even use it once, and I had one of my insurance brokers talk me out of covering my floor. I had a leak covering my floor, and flooring under insurance, because he's like, it's going to go up. It's probably not worth it. And well, why am I paying for insurance?
Exactly. So there are some loopholes that you can kind of move around in that area. So for instance, if you buy the property, you buy property, a car, a house, a condo, whatever, and you buy it and you put it into a trust, and then the insurance is in that trust, you're the trustee of it. So you have the authority to sign on it. You control it. You don't own it. So you control it for the benefit of the beneficiaries. So if the insurance company comes in and says, hey, you know what, you changed your floor out, and now you got some shingles and some tree damage on your house, dude, you're out. Okay. So you sell the house to another trust where you magically are the trustee again, and you rebook insurance on it. The beneficiaries they're non-disclosed. You do not have to disclose them
to the insurance company. Interesting.
Right. And then if you do one more other thing and you change your trustee to a trustee corporation instead of you personally, well, then there's one more level, because now they don't necessarily need to deal with you. They can deal with your wife. or who's now the, whoever you put in charge of dealing with that trust in the company.
Interesting. So how can we use this? How can leaders, business owners, business leaders, how can we, because this is a great these are great metaphors and great examples. How can we use this, Leo, to think differently, to think proactively? Because of course it's human nature to avoid, bad feelings, to avoid risk, to avoid things that make us uncomfortable. And of course, that's why I think it's 93% of people in the world don't achieve what they want, because we avoid things that make us uncomfortable, when that's probably one of the most important things we need to do. How can people change their thinking in terms of risk, in terms of preparation, in terms of being prepared, even if it's just a small little plan, at least some remote, foggiest idea of what happens when shit hits the fan in business? If you lose an employee, I have to fire a salesperson a while ago, and then, okay, what am I doing? Then I'm down a body. What do I do? So, how can we shift our thinking
For sure,
more preventative? That way you're not at a loss or dead in the water when things do blow up.
Right. So it's a little time consuming, but just like how you eat an elephant one bite at a time, you break it down into very small chunks. Like if your business is, James, I'm not sure outside of this what your business is, so we'll just use this. You're a podcaster, and you get all of these videos and you have them on your computer, and you have to take clips out of it, and you got to send them out and do it. And, people pay you to be here, whatever, however it is you make money. Take that one little component. What would happen tomorrow if you woke up and every video is gone? You can't recreate that. So what are some of the small steps you can do to keep that from happening? Whether it's dusting off the DVD burner and burning them off onto a DVD, because if you drop a DVD, you're still fine. You drop an external hard drive, you may not be.
Fair.
Unless you go to, it's a flash drive. But if that is cost prohibitive, then, but I mean, there's a level of security of going from a regular hard drive to, a flash drive.
True.
Yeah. There's a level of security. There's a greater level of security of just throwing it onto a DVD or a Blu-ray, something that's bigger that you can stick on the file cabinet. And the only way that's going down is if the house burns down.
Yeah.
Well, then what's the next step to keep it from there? So, I mean, you can keep going down that rabbit hole till it becomes not feasible. Well, you can make a copy of that Blu-ray that's on the file cabinet and go stick in the safe deposit box at the bank. Okay, if that's worth it to you, do it. If it's not worth it, that's where you draw the line in the sand. You just stop.
Yeah.
And then you take the next piece. If you have to fire somebody, or if something happens to you, how does this business continue to feed the wife and kids? How does it keep to pay the bills to support your legacy and your family? So then you go down that rabbit hole.
True.
Who has the keys to the castle?
True.
Who has your knowledge that's locked up in your head?
Yeah. What are the standard operating procedures? Can you go and say to your admin person or someone or a quick hire, hey, here's the standard operating procedures. Okay, lead comes in, we call it. It goes into CRM to follow up, or marked as lost, or marked as follow up, or they pay and they do their thing, and the next whatever you do is on this date. Or yeah, exactly. It's how are you preparing? And I think you're right. It's that mindset. And instead of I don't have time for it, like a lot of things, it's like exercise. We don't have time for it. Well, what's better? Exercising 1 hour a day or being dead 24 hours a day. It's similar to business. What's doing something, I don't know, 1 hour a week perhaps, or 1 hour a month of backup and preventative and strategizing. Hey, what happens if I'm not here? I get hit by a bus, or if I'm in the hospital. And if I'm sitting in the hospital, maybe I'm cognitive, maybe I'm not, maybe I'm mobile, maybe I'm not. But if the only thing I can do is barely manage things and have other people doing that, who is in charge of sales? Or can we hire a salesperson? Can we hire an admin person? Can we hire whoever? Yeah, whether a business owner, business lead, I think it makes sense to take, I don't know, an hour to a month even. I was going to say an hour a week, but okay, let's baby steps, people. An hour to a month, an entire month, like 1 hour.
It doesn't even need to be that long. I mean, you can have dub and just shoot a video on your phone and be like, hey, you know what? Today I'm going to be paying investors, and this is the procedure. Do a screen record of just what you do, talking your way through it. Done. File it. You can even go down and take, a book and just be, everyone knows it's your favorite book. I'm just looking for a book on my desk here, but I mean, whatever. You take your favorite book and you happen to just open it up and start at the beginning. And this is where you happen to just, if you're going to write passwords down, you write them down, you can write them down there and go put it on your bookshelf. Nobody's going to come in and look for 30 great reasons why I want to backpack Europe. They're not, oh, I want that book, you know, so you can find some place where, you know, your wife or your kid knows where to find the information should something happen to you.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. And like I said, it's that it doesn't even take extra time to have these contingency plans. Like you said, do a screen recording of you sending an invoice, of you paying a bill, of you, you know, billing a client, of you record with permission a customer call, or do a test customer conversation, or get permission to save it internally, a customer conversation, whatever. I think that's a really good idea because it doesn't take really any more of your time just to do a screen and audio recording of you talking with your current salesperson, or what are you doing the books, or what are you doing how to edit the website, whatever it is. Like I said, at least if you need someone to go do something, if you're hurt or barely hanging on, or you're in a hospital bed, you can barely do anything but say, hey, this needs to get done. Watch video A, go do it, please. Whether you're hiring someone or hire a VA or outsource, at least in that state, you can coordinate perhaps, and otherwise just, hey, contingency videos. If worst comes to worst, you know, you get hit by a bus or something.
Right.
Things there. So I think that's being proactive, be preventative. And to your point, it doesn't have to take that much time. I think that's one thing that causes us to procrastinate. It's one thing that causes me to procrastinate sometimes is, oh, it's going to take a while, and you do it. And it literally, like, oh my God, I can't believe how fast how easy that was. I should have done this a month or a year ago.
Correct. And you can use that same strategy even to write a book, which, you know, it's something I've been coaching my dad on. He's had an amazing life. I'm like, you know what, just grab your phone and just tell a story. It doesn't even, you don't have to have a sexy beginning and ending or even a middle. Just pop it open and just talk. And don't worry about it, because we can fix all that later.
Yeah, and an editor can edit that and move it and change it around. It's just as long as your thoughts are there, but that's the most important thing.
Yeah, for sure. So Charlie's he's making some good points, and one of the ones I actually wanted to touch on too is small business owners, which I guess are a lot of your audience here. They don't realize the time, effort, and money that it takes to recreate data.
Exactly.
Whether it's spreadsheets, whether it's forms, even if you have it in paper sitting in the file cabinet, you bring it back in, it doesn't OCR properly to come back in to give you what you had. A lot of that stuff has to be retyped, or you're going back and you're searching through invoices to get customers' phone numbers, to get your email database if it's living on your system and it's not out in MailChimp or somewhere else.
True.
You know, it takes so much time, and most people never even realize the magnitude of what they have until it's gone.
Yeah. Agreed. The stuff I have, it's taken years. I mean, it's taken 9 years, 9.5 years to amount, and maybe more, maybe even before I start the business. So, you know, it's really interesting. We got to be very careful. And like you said, even if it's an hour a month, or again, not even that long, because you're doing screen recordings of everything that's important. Loom recordings, screen recordings, even Windows, maybe 10, but Windows 11 has a built-in, you know, game mode that can do screen recording. I don't love it, but I mean, Loom Video, there's so many free screen recording apps too on Apple and PC and Android. Just screen record everything and have that in some central repository, maybe a Google Drive repository, have that there available for people. And when new hires come on, you hire people, here, check out, watch these videos, instead of you spending hours retraining people and talking the same stuff, and then they forget how to do it, and then you got to retrain them again. I've been there, done that. You retrain, no, just go watch video C again, or video 24, watch that one again. So I think this is a really good point, and it's all about shifting our thinking to being proactive.
Correct.
And that's the whole metaphor for success as a business owner or business leader as well. Being proactive versus, you know, fighting the fire when it happens. What about, you know, being preparing for the fire, so to speak, metaphorically in the first place. I love it. Any other thoughts? Any other thoughts? Because this has been very interesting, and I want people to get a lot of value. Any other thoughts on being proactive, being, you know, and being prepared? I think it's being like the Boy Scout motto: always be prepared. Because this is really valuable for people. I think people really need to get this, and not enough people do this. Even me sometimes.
So one of the things that, like you said, it's a very daunting task, and people procrastinate on it because they look at it and they're like, oh my God, there's so much information. There's so much. I don't even know where to start. Just start. It's like there's an old adage. What is it? A journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step.
Right on.
Actually, it starts with the first thought. You want to have the thought, then you need to take action in order to make the trip go. And it's not going to happen overnight. But you know what? If you focus on just getting 1% better every day, you get compound interest on that. So every little bit you do, every little 2-minute video, every little note you write down every day compounds on itself. And then you take those notes and those little videos and you name it what the task is. Just, I mean, exactly. Just little baby steps. And you just take one little step at a time, one foot in front of the other. Head down, you get into that task, put your head down and just finish that one little task. Don't look up and look at the magnitude of the tree in front of you.
True.
Just take a leaf and be done.
One leaf at a time, or whatever metaphor you, and that's right. Just start.
Right.
Well, it's like starting anything. It's like one bite at a time, one thought at a time, one footstep at a time. I think you're ninja baby steps, Charlie.
Yeah,
says.
ninja baby steps.
Ninja baby. Yeah, fair enough. I think it's super important. So this has been helpful. So how can, because this has been really valuable, and I think it's a great way to look at things. How can people reach out to you? What is one of your or two of your specialties? Where do you really help people, and how can they reach you? I'll put your details up here, but tell us about that.
Yeah.
Too.
So I consult with people on business continuity and helping them develop a risk reduction roadmap. Like I said too, I also run a real estate investment fund. It's a debt-free fund that specializes in low-income housing out in the Midwest primarily. There's zero debt, which has been fantastic through COVID. We don't owe the banks any money, and the cash flow just continues to roll in, and we keep all of our houses all, set to a standard, because there's a lot of landlords that are out there that have houses that people in the United States should not be living in. And I got horror stories I can talk about that, but we'll save that for another day. So we try and fix that. Easiest way to get a hold of me is you go to leohefner.com, LEOHEFNER, and all of my contacts are there, my calendar's there, all of the businesses I have are there. I'm really easy to find. You Google me, you can find me on any number of other podcasts as well, articles, books. I'm easy.
Very cool.
I can't hide anymore.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. Well, this has been amazing. I appreciate you being on here. Thanks for the value. Thanks for sharing. I love all the comments. Thanks for the comments, everyone, as well. And we'll have to have you back on. But I think this has been valuable for people. And it's like, always be prepared. The Boy Scouts, they were on to something. Always be prepared, even if it only takes a smidgen more effort. Just screen record like most of your day for a few days or something, or every part of your day, record that for a week. Anything new you do, any nuances, anything new you do during the week, start to screen recording that, screen and audio recording, and even that alone, you're doing almost no more work, but you're getting a ton of preparation and a ton of things there in case something happens, or you're training new people. Those become your onboarding videos. You don't have to create a whole another video, hours and hours of onboarding videos. You just say to the new hire, watch this video. So that's a genius suggestion, Leo. And yeah, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much for being here, Leo, and for helping me do what I love and giving value to people as well.
Awesome. I appreciate being here. Thank you very much, and I look forward to coming back.
My pleasure, Leo. My pleasure. Thanks, and thanks everyone, by the way, for having us in your living rooms right now, your offices, your cottages, wherever you are, and everyone have your best day ever. Thanks for joining, and again, thanks Leo as well for joining. Go check his website out. I got a lot of value from him.